I'm Alwyn Love,
Hello, I'm Matthew Pawlowski.
and this is the Intercontinental Golf League. Well, Matthew, this is week one of 2025 of the Intercontinental Golf League. We had only one tournament over the weekend, the Century Tournament from Hawaii. Big scores. I'm looking there at the winner, Hideki Matsuyama, and he had nearly an average of, was it 9 under for each round?
Yeah, every second hole a birdie, really spoken.
Wow, and was it a short course or a long course or?
It's average.
Okay, yeah. So it must have been putting well.
Putting well, driving extremely well.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. No, looking at the second place, Morikawa wasn't far behind him, I don't think so.
Okay. So yeah, so Matsuyama, Japanese golfer, and Morikawa, United States. And I'm looking here at it was a Category 6 tournament. So that's basically 4 rounds with no cut and less than 75. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see once you get into the higher category tournaments how that works out. But
Yeah, so it's only one tournament yet, but I think it's quite impressive what the man did there. So I think
you look at the end of the day, an average score of 64.25 over 4 rounds, like that's huge golf.
yeah, really as good as you and me, I would say.
Well, there you go. And I'm looking down at some of the lower positions there. It was a par 73, and I'm looking down as far as 67, which is Ludwig Adberg. And he had an average of 67, which is still 6 under par for 4 rounds. It's unbelievable golf.
Does that speak for the golfers or does it not speak for the course? I don't know.
Well, look at, I suppose there's two sides to it. It doesn't make any difference if you're driving to 50 yards of every green. You still have to get that chip close to make the putt. So you're not going to be draining 30-foot putts on every green. So it's the quality of the approach shots.
Absolutely no. I looked at some of the shots of Matsuyama and quite impressive the drives and the approach shots. They were just simply outstanding, like really.
Yeah, look at a good start to the season to him. For him, on the IGLRS, he started the season at 54th, so that'll bring him up a little bit here. So that's impressive. And I'm going to have a look here and see what's ahead of us for this week. How many tournaments are ahead. But as the year goes on, you'll find after looking at 2022, 23 and 24 that you kind of start with 1, 2, 3, 4 tournaments for the first few weeks, and then you start getting into, in the middle of the year, then some weeks you have 16 tournaments. So
by the end of January, like the tour should be on the go, like
full swing.
Yeah.
But look at I suppose the league format is based on the top 24 results for the year.
Oh, right, that's it.
Okay.
24, is it?
So it counts your top 24 scores, right? So so it gives people that don't start until later in the year that opportunity
To join in, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
you'll see a lot of changes right up until probably March, and then things will start to come out a little bit, because you have to look at while some of the top golfers. The reason we picked 24 is because if you look at the average number of tournaments played by the top 500 golfers in the world, it works out at roughly 24 over the year. So you have the top golfers that only play 20, 21, 22, but then you have other golfers that play 35, nearly 40 tournaments just to make a living, just to get by. So I suppose part of the reason for the IGL was to give those players an opportunity, the guys that go out there and put in their craft for 40 weeks.
Yeah.
Opportunity to have a scoring system. So that was.
Does that mean the guy that plays the 35 tournaments have a higher chance of winning the IGL than the one that does only the 24?
No, because again, it's worked out on it's worked on two things. It takes your top 24 tournaments, so but it also takes in all your tournaments.
Okay.
So there's two algorithms there that come together to give you the overall ranking. So basically, what it does, we looked at it for a number of months, and basically what it does is those golfers that are most consistent over a 2-year period, right? They're the guys that are at the top of the IGLRS. like if you look at last year, it was Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, and a lot of the top names that you would expect there, but then there was other names that played a lot of tournaments, crept in there as well. But if you look at the league table again, you'll see that with the number of wins and number of top tens, you will see that those guys that you wouldn't normally see, those guys were very consistent.
I was just going to ask that question. Like, so I think if you have the lesser tours, like, but as players on, they play highly consistent, probably win the tournaments there, that they might not qualify for the PGA, but they played it and
100%.
They win 4 or 5 tournaments on their own.
There you go. Yeah. And the interesting thing about this as well, after going through 2022, 23 and 24, is the amount of amateur players that tee it up every year in professional tournaments, and actually the amount of amateur winners. You have a number of amateur winners every year across the tours.
On the lesser tours, like, so take it like,
on the lesser tours. But even last year, you had Scott Dunlap on the PGA Tour. But a lot on the lesser tours, you have guys that...
Realistically, but a guy on a lesser tour can't win the IGL because the
well, he can win his division. That's the idea of the divisions. It's the same as any league table. That he if he's in the top 20 in his division, he gets promoted into the next division. Right. So that's where that's at. It's the same as any division. It's in, if you look at football, you have I think it's 8 divisions in total in English football. And they just work their way up. If you look at Wrexham are starting to move their way up, and it's about consistency over the years. So if you're consistent in the lower tours, right, you get promotion in the IGL, and you move up to the next division.
But tell me this, like, say the Asian Tour, has that tournaments that are comparable to the tournaments on the PGA or on
Well, that was a very interesting thing when we looked at all the data. That was very interesting because what we found that the percentage difference. So you have players that normally play on the Asian Tour, okay, and you have players that normally play on the PGA Tour, okay. What we done is we took the top 10 of each of those over a 3-year period, right, and when they played together in the same tournament, okay, that's when we compared the data and the scores, right.
How often does that happen?
It happens fairly often, actually. It happens fairly often, right? Especially in the lower tours, they tend to play in different tours, right? And then over the year, you also have where you have combined tours, where the PGA DPWT will have the one tournament, the DPWT and the Australasian Tour will play together, co-sanction one tournament. DPWT and the African Tour will co-sanction a tournament. So there's comparisons the whole way along. So we took all those comparisons over a 3-year period, right, of how they competed against each other when playing in the same tournament. And that actually gave us the gaps between those players. So in reality, the gap isn't that big, right?
But yet, we guy from the Kenyan Tour or from the Asian Tour can't just walk into the PGA Tour and play a tournament there unless he qualifies or whatever.
Or an invite, or whatever, right? A lot of these tournaments, what they have is that they've, if you look at the people that tee it up, you'll see what category, and there's a lot of invites as well. Okay, in most tournaments. So so you will find over the year that depending how well they're playing on their own tour, they could get an invite into a different tour, which gives them access to a different category tournament and a different tier in that tournament. So look at again, as I say, we looked at it over 4 years and compared all tournaments and all players, and that's where we came up with the algorithms that we're using. And you'll find actually that over the year, there's a rationale behind everything that transpires, so it's good.
But hopefully we don't keep it too technical and we kind of talk about results really spoken like.
Well, I suppose as an introduction, we'll just get the technical bit, and then look at when you get into to March, April, and there's 6-7 tournaments, right? There's a lot to talk about, because a lot of things will happen along there. You'll have first time winners, You'll have guys, hat-tricks of wins for the years. You'll have amateurs winning. So so all those things. But look, at the whole thing here is that it gives. It's not just talking about the top tours. We'll be talking about the Champions Tour, how well players are playing in that.
It's actually like kind of interesting to look at, like to see how people actually progress, and like I mean, and go that little bit step on to the next tour, or
Exactly, yeah.
you name it. You know what I mean? Or maybe they want to remain on the same tour because they like it. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's it. Like you have the NGL Tour, the Nordic League. You have the Mexican Tour. You have the Legends Tour as well in Europe, which the over 50s from the European Tour play, and of course you have the Live Tour as well, and those guys play a lot of Asian events, and they play a lot of DPWT events.
The senior league involved as well, like the over.
Yeah, the Champions Tour is there. Yeah, and yeah. So so they're all there. Yeah. So look, it's going to be an interesting few weeks ahead. It's something very different. It's an alternative way of looking at how professional golf is measured.
Kind of fairly interesting way of looking at it. Like I mean,
Absolutely, yeah. And
maybe you should like actual players will actually look at it as well and compare themselves like to players in lesser league as well. Like we might have a.
yeah, look at I suppose the system at the minute is individual tours and never the twain shall meet to do their own things.
Yeah, it seems to be a close ship.
Yeah. So that just this is a different way of looking at it, putting them all together, because the way I look at professional golfers, and you see this weekend with the scores in the Century, they all put in the same amount of effort. They all put in the same amount of time into their craft. They're all gifted at what they do, and also they also put in the same amount of money to travel, right? So so I suppose it's given every player an opportunity, because you have a situation where a guy misses a 2-foot putt on the 18th and misses the cut. It's after costing them $4,000 to travel.
At least like for the guys that don't earn as much, like that's like in debt straight away, like, and they kind of have to struggle to get to the next tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why we give everybody points. Everybody that turns up and plays at least a round gets points in this system, because it's to me it's hard graft what they do. They put in the time, the money, the effort,
especially on lower ranked players. Like, so I think
exactly
that don't have that luck of being sponsored to the nines. Do you mean that way? So,
So no, yeah. So look, that's good. Looking forward to next week. Next week we've the Sunny Open in Hawaii, and we have the WebEx Players Series in Perth. So we'll have a couple of tournaments to talk about next week, and we'll take it from there. So look, thank you very much for joining me, and look forward to next week.
Yeah.